All right, this video is about formulated conditional formatting. I've shown you some kind of basic conditional formatting in another video, but this one is one where we actually use a formula to determine which cells change color and how they change color. Say, for example, you've got some criteria met. So we could even say, let's just say in this cell here, we want, in this range here, we want numbers that are less than 10, and we don't want any blank cells. So then what we can do is we can use any formula in this helper cell in order to determine when to show an X and when not. I just use an X because it's a routine of mine. You can use anything, you can put any kind of value, anything in it to determine an issue. I just use the X. You can also use true or falses, those kind of things. But what we can do here, for example, in fact, let's use the true and false. So what we can do is if or that one equals blank, or that one is greater than 10, then what we want to do is we want to say true, otherwise false. Let's do it like that. So now if we go down, we can actually have a look, and all of those would be false. If we came in here and put in an 11, then that one turns true because it is greater than 10. And if we clear it, then it's true. So we want a number between 1 and 10. Now what we can do is we can actually do some conditional formatting here, and we can say new rule and use a formula to determine which cells to format, and then just simply say equals that one. Now we need to be careful of these dollar signs, because the dollar sign, when we copy this formula down, it's going to be for that entire range. It's going to be for this entire range. It's always going to refer to cell K7. So we want to keep it in column K, but we don't want to keep it in 7. We want to drop down. So what we do is we just take out that dollar sign there. So we keep it in column K. It's always looking in column K, but as it moves down here, it will move down here as well. Equals K7 equals true. And then what we can do is we can go to format data set. We can say make it bold, put a border around it, and make it bright yellow. Okay, okay. Now if we go back to conditional formatting and say manage rules, we can see it's E7 to E16. So that's that whole section there, and it's looking at K7. Because we don't have the dollar in, it'll move down as it goes down. So we say okay. Now what happens is if we come in here and put in 11, that turns yellow because that one's true. So this is very useful, and I use this on a lot of spreadsheets. In fact, almost every custom spreadsheet I have will have this on somewhere. It looks for things like, you can do all sorts of criteria. You can do things like if it's not a number. So if you're expecting someone to put a monetary value in, for example, and someone types in a word instead of a monetary value, that can say, is it a number? Yes, it is. No, it's not. Change color. And with the simple helper column, you can then get these cells to change color accordingly. So if I remove that because it's blank, it says, hang on, that shouldn't be there, and it turns yellow. You can do more complicated formulas in this conditional formatting. That's a very, very simple formula. You can do them far more complicated. The problem with doing the more complicated formulas is if you then come in and change and add some more columns, if you do a conditional formatting for a range and you come and add more columns in between, it does split it up and it gets a bit confused. And if you want to then come and change that formula, it can be very, very confusing changing some of these conditional formatting formulas. Whereas if you've got those helper columns, it's much easier to come in and address those formulas and then just simply keep the conditional formatting as simple as possible, referring to another cell, and then put the more complicated formula within that cell. I could have just put that formula straight away into the conditional formatting, but as I said, that does get a bit confusing. You tend to lose track, and it can become a bit overwhelming. So I would use the helper columns as I've done in this situation. So yeah, I hope that that helps you, and helps you not only with your conditional formatting, but also to be able to see when you've got errors in your spreadsheets and that kind of thing. It can be very, very useful. Thank you.